We expected the next government to bring the rates back in, so we just keep revaluing in case. But they are very, very useful, particularly when you combine them with the maps in following the fortunes of families. If you can find somebody there at the time of the great buyout of local holdings under the Land Acts, you'd almost certainly find a relative there now. Okay, I'm going to, as you might have gathered, I can just go on and on. Okay, so I'm not going to. Those are the four biggies. There are lots and lots of other things, and the relative importance of them have changed completely over the years. Newspapers used to be one of these things you wouldn't recommend to somebody unless they had a fortnight to spare, you know. Now that IrishNewsArchives.com and BritishNewsArchives.co.uk are digitising more or less all of the 19th century provincial Irish newspapers, the relative importance has changed completely. If you can search these things in 15 or 20 minutes as opposed to a fortnight, they change completely. Graveyard transcriptions. There are some graveyards in Ireland that seem to be visited by different sets of transcribers every 2 or 3 months. There are lots and lots of transcriptions going on. HistoricGraveyards.com is probably the biggest. Commercial directories, occupational records, estate records. Again, for Limerick, the best place for all of these is the Limerick Local Studies. One of the things that I try to do on my own site, johngrenham.com, is keep abreast of what's appearing where, and put it into little pigeonholes so that it appears beside the right parish and so on and so forth. But anyway, I try. But this is also worth keeping an eye on. IrishGenealogyNews.com. This is a woman called Claire Santry, who is a professional journalist by trade and a blogger. Any new releases of records, any changes, special offers and so on, Claire, she posts once a day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, so she is basically the go-to spot for what's going on. I'm aware I've run over, so I'm going to stop there and ask if you have any questions. Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Have you any idea when the 1926 census will be released?
2026. This was a commitment in the programme for government for the last government, actually, that it was going to be released in time for the centenary of 1916. But the Central Statistics Office put up the mother of all fights to stop it happening, because on the basis that if people see census forms appearing earlier than 100 years, they'll be less inclined to fill them out truthfully, you know, the guarantee of confidentiality. So they're sitting, they're in good condition. They're sitting out the back of the National Archives in a warehouse there. They're being well stored. It is going to be a huge project. It's going to be orders of magnitude bigger than the 1901 and 1911. 1901 and 1911 depended on the Mormon microfilms. They could just feed the microfilms into an image creator and, you know, mechanically create all the images you see on the website. They're going to have to create fresh digital images of the entire census, individual form by form. You know, it's going to be the aim is that by 2026 it should be up, but it's certainly not going to happen before then. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Where does the money come from for these websites to produce them and to pay the people that produce them and maintain them?
Which websites?
Well, I gather there's some of government, but the others...
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, IrishGenealogy.ie is a government website. National Archives is government. The registers.nli.ie is... they see this as part of the... Well, I mean, yes, it's your tax money is the short answer for those ones. For Roots Ireland, they're paying. Okay, you pay an annual subscription, and that pays the people who work on the website and the people who work in the local heritage centres. Ancestry.com, Find My Past are also commercial websites, you know, dependent on subscriptions. They do lost leaders. They do Find My Past, especially, is very good at making free copies, free searches available. It's absolutely terrible at telling you what is and isn't free. So for example, you can search the national 1901 census on Find My Past. You can say, okay, show me all returns with Patrick Smith, who has a daughter, Mary Smith. And it will bring you up all the returns. You can't do that on the National Archives site. There are many things you can do on the National Archives site you can't do on that, and you can do that for free. And you can do it for free. You can search I mentioned the Valuation Office records. They have a copy of them on Find My Past. They're easier to search. Then they lead you back to the originals as well. But they see that as a form of advertising. Okay, so they're attracting you in. I mean, they're either full-on commercial, or it's not. I mean, okay, here are two sites. Irish Genealogy News. Claire makes money as an affiliate for other sites. So if she tells you that there's 50% off on Ancestry subscriptions for the next 2 days, and you click through and subscribe, Claire will get some of that money. Okay, so that's a pretty standard one. My site uses what they call a soft paywall, the same as the Irish Times does, where you can look at a certain amount of things for free, and then you're asked to pay, or go away and come back tomorrow. One or the other. Not everybody is getting paid. There are lots and lots of volunteers out there putting things up. There's a whole series of things that Claire is involved in, volunteers. The Irish Genealogical Research Society, igparchives.com, which is volunteers transcribing passenger lists, gravestone inscriptions, newspaper obituaries. But most of it at this point, it has gone from being a volunteer and cottage industry to being paid for. Okay, that's a very long-winded answer to your question. Yes?
I have found somebody on the National Archives website for house valuation. Do you know that
The valuation records, yeah.
But when I go to Griffiths, they're not there. Now, it did say on the National Archives one that they obviously had been persuaded to give up their property.
Yeah. Or they're gone anyway. Yeah.
Might I find them on the shipping lists, or would you think they just upped and died?
Oh, I mean, God, I haven't got an idea, to be honest with you. I mean, all you really know is that you have a date for the valuation book where they're there, and you have a date for the Griffiths where they're not there. What years are they? It's not
1848 they're there, and 1852 they're not on Griffiths.
Okay. 1848, I mean, I suppose the worst of the famine. Well, I mean, one of the things there's a certain time lag in some of the records as well. You can't be 100% sure that they were there for the whole of 1848, if you know what I mean. But yeah, you have a fairly good target, as it were. I mean, were they baptizing children before 1848 in the area? Is it possible that you might find baptisms of other children of the family elsewhere? That's again one of the things you can do when you're searching online, is you can just throw the net much broader and just see. Or are there death records for any of the children burial, or any of the family burial records? If they were Catholic, probably not, but it's always worth checking. Again, shipping records, the 1840s. If you're talking about Britain, there were no. I mean, it was the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, so it was the equivalent of somebody going from Birmingham to Manchester. That there were no internal migration records, but there are plenty of good records of migrants in the 1841 and 51 censuses in the UK and in Scotland. So I mean, it's you know when they weren't there, and you know when they were there. So you have a pretty good focus for the research, and there's lots of things you can do, but you can't make presumptions that they were dead or that they you don't know. You just keep going, basically. That's it. Yes?
Could I ask you a question in relation to Clare?
Fire away.
And I have in mind Thomas Major Cullen. Without the number, my information is that he carried out with his family, Church of Ireland family, a huge amount of exploration in the diamond mines in Africa.
Okay.
So, and they're still there. And I've got a few queries from people like that who they know that they're interested. So I thought I might raise the question with a very good person. And by the way, you did a marvel, you covered huge and marvellous ground this evening.
Thank you. Okay. First of all, he was an officer in the British Army, obviously. British Army records are pretty much all digitised, all the 19th century records. And officers, particularly commissioned officers, are pretty easy to find. Again, you're talking about a subscription site. It's findmypast.co.uk. It's the English version of the Find My Past. It should be possible, I mean, to follow his career from those records, where he was posted. It should be, I mean, if he was, when you say diamond mines, you're South Africa is the obvious place. But
he also had a very special connection with British royalty.
Okay.
It's another little thing.
Well, I mean, one of the things I haven't mentioned is go off and find somebody else who's done it for you. You know, that's the. If somebody is conspicuous in any way, it's well worth just throwing the nets out and seeing what comes up.
And there's a further little thing that one member of the family was a very well-known solicitor,
Okay.
and we know that he lived at 6 Bendon Street in Ennis.
Okay.
So I won't take any more of your time.
No. Well, I mean, you've thrown up a whole range of threads that can be pulled there. I mean, first of all, newspapers. The family were obviously conspicuous and likely to be reported. You have legal records, occupational records. There are tremendous records of solicitors and barristers' applications. The landed gentry, Burke's Landed Gentry of Ireland for the 1911 edition is an extraordinarily comprehensive sort of picture of a country that was about to vanish. And it's online. You will find it on the website archive.org. You have many options ahead of you. Many happy hours. Yes?
You're going to be bombarded with questions now, but I just wonder, can you be contactable to do so?
JohnGrenham.com.
Yeah, okay.
There's a contact form on that. Yeah.
And then another question: is it possible to find out family history on buildings in Limerick?
Okay. Yes. Well, I mean, the Valuation Office records. If even anything that was built from, I think, 1852. What was the Griffiths for Limerick? Was it? Yeah, 1852. Anything from then on, there is a valuation record coming right the way down to the 1970s. So I mean, what that tells you is who was in economic occupation of the building. Okay, and you may have to use that then to go at them in the newspapers, But you can find. I mean, one of the things that has always amazed me is that, for example, Dublin. Every single house in Dublin, pre-1977, you can follow it in the valuation records, year by year, all the way back, the entire city. And so you can do it for Limerick too.
Going back as far as 1811.
1811? Well, you're probably talking about commercial directories once you get past 1852. But I think the Limerick directories are pretty good. And you're probably depending on knowing who was in occupation as well. Because you go at the family and you'll find out more about the house, vice versa. Okay, all right. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Do you know the way on the National Library they have the school registers? Do you know if they're ever going to run any more of them?
Okay. So Mike tells me to shut up. Okay.
I didn't put it like that.
Somebody. Took a data protection case against the National Archives for publishing his school registers from the 1930s, and the archives have withdrawn them all on that basis. So I mean, it's I don't know if there's any whiff of things being coming under data protection in any shape or form, the library and the archives will run away from it, which is ridiculous, I think. But I was involved with the voters lists for Dublin City, digitising them up to 1964. And they were on the website of Dublin City Library and Archive, and Cork Archives got the idea of doing the same for Cork City, and some bright spark said, well, we should ask the Data Protection Commissioner. And the Data Protection Commissioner said no, and they said, but Dublin have done it. So now Dublin have taken down the voters lists. So it's the rule of thumb is ask for, apologise, don't ask for permission. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. I think I really did.
Thanks so much, John. That's just for covering of all the resources that you could find, especially online. So, John, thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike.